जी, अरीबा जवेद। आयशा, आयशा बीबी। At example, the burning is there within the flame, and in this flame, these reactions are taking place. First one is the vaporization is taken. Solvent is being evaporated. Then in middle of this flame, the atomization, that is the conversion of solid Ma is converted into metallic one. And now this is then when it is being excited, it absorbs energy. And this is the characteristic absorption which is coming from what? From the flame, from the hollow cathode lamp. And this the resonance taking place and the absorption taking place. Now it is going to be excited. So by the absorption of quant, uh, quantitative absorption, and this absorption is directly proportional to the number of atoms. Greater the number of atoms which are being produced within this flame, greater will be the absorption. And when this if further at high temperature, the as the particles are moving from bottom to what? Bottom to the top, the temperature increases. And when the temperature increases, that ionization taking so much energy is being absorbed by this particle, and it is being ionized. When it is ionized, it is removing of one electron taking place. When it is one electron removing, it's what? It means that this is the ionized species. This will be not absorbing this resonance energy which is coming from the hollow cathode lamp. Okay. Now, these are the first one. And the second one is if we are not using the flame, but we are using what? We are using the electroatomizer, in which it is also known as graphite furnace, in which instead of flame, placing a graphite tube here. Here is the hollow cathode lamp, here is the atomization, and here is the detection. And it means that due to this reason, due to because we are atomizing a very small sample, when we are pushing, and this is the glass tube, sorry, cylindrical graphite tube, which is approximately 1 to 3 centimeter. When in this glass in this graphite tube, it is roughly up to 3 centimeter, and its diameter is 3 to 8 millimeter in depth. And there is a hole from which we are pushing the sample from the top, and here it is. And this graphite tube is heated by passing current through it. So graphite tube is housed between a seed, and here there is a mechanism that is we are purging the gas, we are pushing the gas, flowing the inert gas, so that when this tube graphite tube, that is the carbon tube, is heated, it's in order to increase its life, we are purging such as argon, such as neon. So, depending upon the availability, this we increase the life of this tube, because because we are heating this graphite tube at about 3000 degrees centigrade, and when it is red hot at that time. When it is red hot, it means that it's decomposition. It's decomposition with what? With the oxygen taking place, oxidation taking place, and this carbon will be converting into carbon dioxide immediately. So that in order to avoid that oxidation, or in other words, we can, in order to increase that, we are flowing inert gas through it. Okay. Now we are pushing. We increase the temperature. We supply a huge current here, so that this graphite tube is heated. So this is called a resistive heating. This I know. I recall. I have discussed this. And this heating is not abrupt. This heating is in a controlled fashion. So this is in the first step. There are four steps in total. Only the three are the mainly used for the atomization. First of all, we inject a microliter quantity, 5 to 50 microliter quantity, and we heat that. We heat this graphite tube at what? At about 110 degrees Celsius, so that all the liquid samples, liquid, that is the solvent, that is be evaporated. We are what? We are also purging. We are also flowing inert gas. So vapor are being get rid of from this tube. Next, that's the drying stage. That is charring. It is also called as etching stage. In this, we increase the temperature ranging from 350 to 1200 degrees centigrade. This is in this temperature range. What is happening? That if there is an organic compound, it will be decomposed. If, for example, it's a blood sample, the organic matter of the blood that will be decomposed at this much temperature, and again, this decomposition is taking place, and again the gases is flowing, and the carbon dioxide or the water which are formed, they are being removed from this with the help of what? With the help of the flowing gases. Next stage, that is the important one, that is the atomization stage, and this is temperature range is roughly 1700 degrees centigrade to 2800 degrees centigrade. It doesn't mean that it is always we are changing. This depends upon what? Depends upon an element to element. For example, if copper is being atomized at 2100 degrees centigrade, lead could be at 800 degrees centigrade. Some other metal, for example, aluminium is about 727 degree, 700 degrees centigrade. So we increase the temperature rapidly within seconds, and then during this transition, during this stage, we also interrupt the flowing of the gases, so that the only concentration, so that the elements, the atoms which are being formed within this tube, they are not being lost by the flowing gases. And now, we are getting a one sharp signal within seconds, and our absorption. That is our absorption signal, and that height of this signal is directly proportional to the number of atoms which are being injected into this tube. Okay. Now all these stages, 1, 2, 3, drying, etching, and atomization, it takes roughly 45 to 90 seconds. So that it depends. It depends upon what? It depends upon the programming which we are for this. This is program heating. It is not out of control. We are controlling it and we are managing it. And the next stage is the cleaning of the tube. We can clean the sample within the instrument. What we are doing? We are doing that we increase the temperature, so that if for example a temperature of 2800 degrees centigrade is there, at 2800 degrees centigrade an element A or B it will be atomized, it will give a signal. If a higher energy will be there, if higher energy will be provided, it will be ionized. And what we are doing, we are ionizing, we are removing the sample, which is unused. Okay, so by this is called a cleaning stage, and this is cleaning stage is must before any other and taking any next reading. And now I heard that during the and at that time, at the break, there was a question that the we are using graphite tubes. Why not other elements? Because we are passing through this graphite tube, that is through this atomator, high current, high voltage is there. We can't use metallic substances. So graphite is a compound, is an element which is stable in this process, and we can its machining is easy. Its conductivity is reasonable, so that when it is reasonable, it can we can use it. No, if we are going to put, and for example, a metallic electrothermal, so it will be not working. It will fusing will be there. So the short circuiting could be there. That is the reason that we should use only graphite tube in this category. Now there are other proportions. These are atomizer. There are two other arcs. That is the hydride generation. In this, such as aluminum, arsenic, antimony, germanium, tin, lead, they can be reacting with what? That is with sodium borohydride. So this is high. This is what is a reducing agent. So this will be reducing what is reduction? Reduction is that is the addition of hydrogen or removal of what? Of the addition of electrons. So here is the addition of hydrogen is there. So nitrate is being removed and hydrogen is being taking place, and this is forming what? This arsenic nitrate reacting with sodium, right? It is converting into arsenic hydride, and this is a volatile. This is a gas. So this gas is pushed into the sample, into the tube, and along with what inert gas carrier, and this will be then that tube is along in the beam of the radiation, and it will be absorbing. Okay. Now this is the reaction that is in which hydride generation. So hydride is being formed. The other cold vapor generation technique. Here in this mercury is being used, and that is it is mercury reduced again, and with the help of tin chloride, and it will be converting into the nickel, and volatile mercury will be evolved, and that volatile mercury is again pushing into the beam, and then there will be a signal, and we can use it. So these are the total. So the mode of atomizations are: number one, flame atomizer; number two, electrothermal atomizer; number three, hydride generation; and number four, cold vapor generation technique. So these are generally being used. Okay. Now, after this atomizer, there was the monochromator, so that we can only record, we could only measure the absorption of it will remove all the radiation except that of the element of interest, which is present within which is being generated, which is being utilized in the atomizer section. Then the detector, and we are using this signal is being converted into the into into current or potential, and that is being used. And this is a photomultiplier tube is being generally used this instrument in such type of instrument due to its very fast response. Then this signal which has been detected by the detector, and it is amplified, and then it could be recorded along with paper on a paper, or it could be have a digital output. This was the summary. Here, the sample is being injected, whether it is flame or if we replace this, if we are not using graphite tube. If, for example, it is both we are not using, we have a tube which is for cold vapor generation technique, hydride generation technique. Similar tube is there, which is hollow there, and the vapors are being passing through it, and this is transparent, and this tube is placed here. Here again, it is the recording is there, and the absorption is there, and then it is recording, and that is the output. So this was, I think, it was the last slide. Now sampling, we can use, we can utilize what we can use this technique for solid sample, for liquid sample, for the gaseous sample. Whatever the solid sample, we have to dissolve it. We have to dissolve it in what? We have to dissolve it in a suitable solvent, just like we were dissolving our sample in gravimetric technique. Okay. Now the soil could be dissolved into liquid form, and that liquid solution that will be passing through this flame, or it could be a drop a few microliter of it tube, or it could be vapor generation technique. Again, if it is in the liquid form, they could be directly, such as in the pollution in the water, we can measure by in direct injection of the water into the flame, into the graphite atomizer. If, for example, blood is a liquid sample, so it similarly petroleum product could be used as such. So the liquid sample could be used as such. Timing it, we have to know the composition. That is the matrix effect, so that to get rid of those matrix according to suitable programming, according to suitable selection of flame. Then, if their gases are there, the gases should be just like in the vapor generation. They could be used in the trapping into the tube or they could be the gases in the way of gases. The utilization of the gases is that these gases, they are being collected. They are being in a trapping solution. So in that trapping solution, the gases are being collected, and that solution is being injected into the sample, into the flame, into the graphite tube, into the cold vapor generation technique. Now the issue is रबिया एजाज अपना माइक्रोफोन ऑफ करें सर की आवाज़ क्लियर नहीं so it's not my problem. So this is the Rabia Ajaz. So please switch off your microphone. You should listen only. Thank you very much. Now, how we can measure? That is the procedural. This is very simple. Again, it is exactly similar than that like that of the gravimetric analysis. We convert the sample into a solution form. Number one. Number two, we should make blank solution which contain all the component, all the sample, all the solvents, all the material, all the procedure we have to be using, but we will not use in this analytical. Our sample will be not there. But whatever we are using for the sample preparation, in order to dissolve the sample, for example, we are using 10 ml of nitric acid. So we will use 10 ml. They are doing making the solution of the sample. So what is that? That will be, and if it will be a blank solution, it means that whatever the components are present in this blank solution, that will be substituted ultimately. So the sample minus blank will be giving us the original signal of the analyte. Okay. Next, say make a series of calibration solution containing known amount of analyte. When we say CF standard solution, these are also called a calibration solution. It means that we take this standard, for 1 ppm solution, 2 ppm, 5 ppm, 10 ppm. So this is known as the calibration solution. We will make a series of solution. They could be 3, 5, 4, 50, whatever you want, but the reliability should be there so that after calibration we are making a standard ranging from 1 to 10 ppm. This is a just example, for example, for the copper. But the linearity range of this copper is different than that of the manganese. It could be 1 to 5 ppm. Again, it could be different. For example, in case of aluminum, it is 1 to 30 ppm. Another, for example, silicon, it should be to 50 ppm. So this is depending upon the range, detection region in which we can detect and then measure the sample. So we should select the calibration range element, depending upon the element, which is sensitive, more sensitive. When it is more sensitive, detected. Next, we will set up the instrumental parameter, and then we will forward. For example, in case of, for example, copper, we will select the wavelength of, for example, 625. Then we will have increase the temperature range. If we are using the flame, we will be controlling the temperature of the flame with the change in the in proportion, change in the ratio of of the oxidant and the fuel gases, so that will be set, and then we will measure the absorbance of standard solution that we have prepared. Then from this standard solution, we will make it plot calibration curve by plotting what concentration versus absorbance. Okay. Now after that, we note the sample solution, and we will take the absorbance of the sample solution, and then absorption solution, the absorption of the sample solution is measured, and that absorbance is put into this graph, into this plotting of the concentration versus absorbance, and from that we can calculate the we know the absorbance, we can calculate the concentration. So by this is the just the simple procedure for the measurements. Measurement with what? With atomic spectrophotometer. Again, for example, this procedure is a general procedure, and this will be same. This will be same for this will be the same with what for UV visible. This will be the same for any other spectrophotometric method. Be careful, and and this is the important thing, that this procedure is the same for what all the spectrophotometric procedure or the spectrophotometric methods. Oh no. These are the calibration curves. Here is the absorbance, and here it is the concentration. And then we are plotting graph, and then we are making we are the this is the absorption of substance, and this is the when we perpendicular will be drawn, we are making the concentration level. So this is the concentration, and this is I'm sorry, the background is this is due to the procedure of your porter. Now, these analogies, they are very important. That is the sensitivity and the detection limit. And sensitivity, what? It is also known as characterization. This concentration is different for different element. Mind it. This concentration, this sensitivity is different. And what is that? That is, this is the concentration of the analyte or in the form of element, because in this signal we are making the element. So it is the concentration of analyte that give us an absorbance of 0.0044. 0.0044, or more precisely it is 0.00436. If we round it off, we will say that 0.0044. This is the absorbance, and that absorbance is equal to 1%, 1% of the absorption in case of what? In case of a percentage absorption. Or it is 99% transmittance. This is the concentration. This is characteristic. This is specific. So this is characteristic concentration. This concentration, for example, the signal of copper, for example, 5 ppm signal, 5 ppm of copper have absorbance of 0.0044. It means that 5 ppm is the sensitivity of for copper. But for example, if silicon is there, silicon will be not giving a 5 ppm, but it will be rather 30 ppm, or approximately 30 ppm of silicon that will give us a signal of 0.0044. But it will be, again, it will be different than, for example, if it is a manganese. Manganese is equal to, manganese has a 0.0044 absorbance when the concentration of manganese is 0.1 ppm. So it means that the sensitivity of manganese is maximum, that is lowest one, sensitivity is lowest one, or we can say it is more sensitive. So it is more sensitive with respect to what? With the two given example of silicon and that of the copper. Manganese is more sensitive. And how we can determine this? Determination is by we can determine them by running the solution whose concentration is slightly above the concentration. If we know that the sensitivity of the manganese is 0.5 ppm, we will run the signal, for example, 0.6 ppm solution, and then we are repeating it, and we are measuring it since its absorbance. And when we will extrapolate it down to 1% level, 1% emission level, that is 1% absorption or 99% transmitter, we can calculate it. We can say, for example, 0.6 ppm is equal to forward, for example, 0.005. It means that 0.0044 means it should be 0.5 ppm. Okay. By this means we can check it. Then there is detection limit. In terminology, this is important. These two terms are very important, and not only in all the analytical techniques, especially. Okay, the concentration of the analyte requires to give an absorbance signal equal to the twice the standard deviation of a series of at least 10 determination of a blank reading. What we are doing, we are measuring the blank solution which we have prepared in our procedural determination procedure of the experiment. So we will take the blank solution, we will take its absorbance, one reading, two reading, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10. So we have a 10 different reading of the blank solution. What will we do? We will take the average and then we will calculate the standard deviation of these 10 readings. And that will be the standard deviation of a blank solution. And then we will multiply it by 2. That will be the detection limit. So it means that this is the detection limit which can be detected with the help of this technique. But this is the detection limit. So it is the concentration of the analyte which requires to have the absorption that is equal to twice, that is double the signal of what this standard blank reading, and that blank reading is composed of what 10 determinations. We will take reading for 10 readings, and then we will take the so we will calculate the standard deviation of the 10 readings, and then we will multiply it by the 2, 3. So if you are multiplying by 2, it is twice the standard deviation. Some other some say that this is thrice the standard deviation, but generally twice the standard deviation is general. Okay, now this is the detection. We can detect, but can we measure it accurately? Question mark is there. So for analytical measurement, so for getting a reliable procedure, what is that? The concentration should be at least 10 times higher than that of the detection limit. If the detection limit of an element is zero point 0.1 ppm, it means that the reliability of the result will be when this read of the analyte is 10 times, that is the 1 ppm of that detect element of A. The analytical measurement. So analytical measurement could be only possible, could be reliable when the detection signal is at least 10 times higher than that of the detection limit. Okay, so this is the two, three important definitions. Applications. There are so many applications of the atomic absorption spectrophotometer. That is the clinical absorption, clinical analysis. We can analyze the metals in the biological fluids, such as blood, in urine, for clinical analysis. What is important? That these are the elements of important. That is calcium, magnesium, lithium, sodium, potassium, iron. Yes, and they are all. We know when we say just for an example, in the whole measuring what sodium, for example, and sodium is responsible for what? That is hypertension. So we can monitor, we can check the sodium contents of the whole blood, and so we can detect whether it is up to mark, or if it is less than, if it is greater than that of the recommended value. We say that the whole we that person is suffering from what, that is the high. Similarly, the lithium concentration in the whole blood, that is very important with respect to what, because it is a mental level. Mental retarded person, they are deficient in the lithium content in the whole blood. Similarly, the in here is fixed values. We have standard values. Now, in the environmental cell, so another application in the environmental sample, we can monitor our environment by, by we can see, we can say our water, river water is our seawater is contaminated in our drinking water, which we are taking in abundance, suitable for drinking or not. Then air is the in which we are living, we are inhaling. Then even contents, metallic contents of the petrol, because in the petrol we are using lead as an as a anti-knocking agent. So if it is less problematic, if it is more than that, it will be problematic. So in order to have a quality control, we have quality control of the drinking water, air, petrol, river, sea water, and so many other in all these substances which are present in here. And here, we are mainly concerned with the calcium, magnesium, iron, silicon, aluminum, copper, zinc. These are the essential elements. Also, with respect to the toxicity, we can include toxic level. That is what? That is lead, cadmium, mercury, and so many others. In chemicals, In the pharmaceutical manufacturing, minute quantities of catalysts are being used, and that catalyst that must be removed without in the final product. That in that product could be sometime present in the final product. That should not be. So that is again in the pharmaceutical industry we are measuring what the we are monitoring the catalyst in the form of metal, for example. So by using AS, amount of product could be purified if required. We can also use this technique in an industry, for example. Many raw materials are being examined by the AS to check the major element that is present, and that is the toxic impurity. They are if they are the toxic impurity must be lower, whereas element of interest that is the major element that must be the greater than. So that, for example, the mining, for example, if we have a gold industry, gold purification industry. So what is that? We have to utilize this AS for the analysis of the sample. Similarly, for mining, the for example, in the as we have mentioned that if for example we want to mine the gold ore of the gold, so in the gold in the rocks that can be determined, see whether this is worth mining the rock to extract the gold. If it is very low concentration, so that the extraction procedure is greater, so we can't use it. If it is rich concentration of the gold, silver, and platinum, if they are in the reasonable amount, we can dig the rock, we can mining the rocks, we can process the rocks, and then we are getting the precious metal. Similarly, we trace elements analysis in the food, animal stuffs. We can in the food. These are elements: manganese, lead, manganese, iron, copper, chromium, selenium, zinc. These are essential elements. And again, trace element analysis in the cosmetics. That is important. Nowadays, the skin whitening cream they are being using in Pakistan. Huge amount, very large concentration of mercury is there, which is causing cancer, cancer of what skin, all due to what? That is due to the mercury level in the skin whitening creams. So please, analysis of the additives in the lubricating oil and the greases. So these are the barium, calcium, sodium, lithium, zinc, magnesium. They are being used as an additive, and then use the analysis. We can use this technique for the analysis of the soil, for example. So that is I think it should be the end of this technique. I think so. Yes. Is there any question up till now? Any question? Which we are using nowadays. That is the atomic absorption. Next will be the maybe UV visible. Next will be IR. Then we will be having what thermogravimetric analysis, for example. So these are analytical technique. In between, from starting from the gravimetric analysis, we have we are purifying our sample. We want to get rid of the what we want what the uh, matrix effect. So we want to and with respect to your question that is there is any universal one? No, no, and never. Because every every analytical technique, any technique everywhere within the universe that will have its own merits and demerits. They are always there. For example, when we are using, for example, thermal analysis, only possible that when it is thermally decomposed. For example, when we are dealing with with the paper chromatography, we can't analyze these or separate them when a component which is of high boiling point. Okay, so there are limitations. For example, if for example we are using UV visible, UV visible has a specific a narrow region electric spectrum, which is responsible for its own characteristic. Similarly, if we are going, if for example X-rays are there, X-ray has their own energy quantum. They will be having another application. Similarly, if for example IR is there, IR has the energy quantum which is visible. So IR will have its own characteristic and it will be had its own application. So up to now, there is no any universal technique which could be for analysis of all the elements. Even then, now we have just finished what absorption. Atomic absorption is very good technique at ppm level, ppb level, even ppt level. Yes, some elements they could not be utilized. We cannot measure these elements with the help of this atomic absorption. So for those purpose, for example, organic elements, organic functional group, they cannot be determined with the help of atomic absorption. On the metallic species could be determined with the help of atomic absorption spectrophotometer. For the functional group analysis, we have what? We have IR, spectroscopy meter. That is the word. Yeah. Similarly, for example, if color developing compounds are colored, you can use them with the help of what? With the help of UV visible spectrophotometers. So all these techniques merits as well as their demerits. Is the technique that may apply on any sample? No, we can't say for any all the samples. Ethanol is there, it cannot be oxidized, it could not be atomized because it is when we are ethanol, methanol, organic compound with the help of atomic absorption. Is it clear now? Amir, is it clear? So this is thermal analysis, means that we know that when we heat the sample, it will be thermally, there will be certain reaction, some components out of that. And from this, we have already discussed a little bit, very little bit, a bit of that technique that is in the gravimetric analysis. We observed that there is a property in which if we heat the sample, there is some decomposition taking place and we measure the weight loss. And that weight loss is the thermal gravimetric analysis. That is gravimetry because we are measuring the weight. But thermal analysis doesn't mean that it is measurement, always it is a measurement of weight. There are so many other we can measure which can be changing with the what? With the change in the temperature of a substance. And we such things in this part of the lecture. Now, just in order to have a brief idea, thermal events. Which are the thermal events? Okay. Pure substance, single substance, A, for example, it is heated in an inert atmosphere. What will be happen? It will increase its molecular level, its atomic or ionic motion. So at ionic level, the part movement of the energy, it will get energy from the surrounding, from the environment, and it's more motion of what? Ionic motion, if it is in ionic form, atomic motion, if it is in atomic form, molecule, if it is molecule. So they will be lead to change in the crystal structure. We are making solid, and that solid structure with the help of what? They will be what? They will be what? There will be some, for example, the simplest one is the melting. And before that, there is sintering. There is sintering, there is melting, there is sublimation. These are the processes which will be eventually taking place with the passage of time, with the change in temperature. The particle will be fusing with each other. They will be melting ultimately, and then it is sublimation. Sublimation is a process in which a compound, a solid material, is converting into what? Into vapor form without getting into the solid, is directly passing into the vapor phase. Okay. And this, what is happening? Why melting is there? What sublimation is there? Why sintering is there? It depends upon the intermolecular forces. If the intramolecular force means within the molecules, within the between the molecules. If the intramolecular forces are weaker, then the substance may decompose. Now, intramolecular, if they will be new molecular fragments, it will be breaking of the the bigger molecule into smaller one. The intermolecular forces are stronger, it will be have a high melting point. If intermolecular forces are weaker, they will low melting point, low boiling point. If it is very low, it will be sublimation. Okay. Now, so it will be decomposed into some other fragment. We say that some of the material or all of the material may be volatilized at a given temperature, at a suitable temperature. So these are this very broad term that when we heat the sample, when we supply thermal energy, the sample will be eventually making so many reactions. Depending upon all this depends upon intermolecular forces and intramolecular forces. So now we are going at molecular level. For example, which type of the changes we are observing? Example, for example, barium chloride to water molecule. It means that these two water crystallization. This is in the solid state, solid barium chloride dihydrated. When it is heated, it is converting into what? Anhydrous barium chloride and two water molecules are being vaporized. So weight loss will be there. That is thermogravimetric analysis. Similarly, for example, calcium carbonate, when it is heated strongly, it is converting into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide is being evolved. Again, this is the weight loss will be there due to what? Due to the loss of what? Due to the loss of carbon dioxide. Yes. It means that we can measure it, we can quantify it. Similarly, the ammonium chloride, it is a solid. When it is heated, it is converting into ammonia. Both of them, they are gases. And when they are gases, it means that this will be sublimation. It will be not melting, it will be converting direct from solid to gaseous form. Yes. Another example is silver is there. Silver is a solid matter. And when it is reacting with the oxygen, atmospheric oxygen, gaseous form, it is converting into what? Into silver oxide. And here, when absorbing oxygen, converting into silver oxide, it means the weight increase in weight. So whether change in the increase in the weight or decrease in the weight, again it will decrease in the weight and increase in the weight. So increase or decrease in the weight, we can measure with the help of what? As we increase the temperature, we can say that these are the thermal events. These are a few examples only in order to give you an idea what is supplying thermal energy to a solid material. Now, thermal analysis, these are the techniques that measures physical and chemical property of a sample as a function of time and as a function of temperature or time, while the substance is subjected to a controlled heating program. Controlled heating program is essential. It doesn't mean that if we are heating the substance, it means that we are making a fire. So this is not the required. We want to have a supply of energy in a controlled fashion. Okay. So what is happening with the change in temperature or with the change in time when the subject it is subjected to controlled heating? For example, if we are supplying the energy at a controlled rate, that we are increasing the temperature with 5 degrees per minute. So when we have known the point, starting temperature and the final temperature, and the time is there. So if it's a regular fashion, it is regular increase in the temperature, we can measure on the time, not the temperature. So that is again that is because this is in a linear relation with each other. So any property which can be changed, which can we can check any property. It could be a chemical, it could be a physical one. So that is by virtue of the temperature. As a function of temperature or time, when we are measuring time, it means that the that is being heated or supplying in heat in a controlled fashion. Now, when we say that the controlled temperature program, the controlled temperature program means there are so many things we can do within this controlled temperature program. For example, a constant heating at a linear rate. And this is very common. When we say constant heating rate at a linear rate, it means that the temperature we are increasing the temperature. For example, 5 degree increase per minute. It means that right now. जी अब आवाज आ रही है. So when we have a constant heating program, it means that if, for example, we heat the temperature, we start the heating at 5 minutes, 5 degree temperature per minute. So after every 1 minute, 5 degree rise will be there. So it is a control. And there is another one that is the isothermal measurement. Isothermal means at the same temperature. We are measuring the we are measuring the any property at a constant rate. It means that isothermal. Iso means the same, thermal means the temperature. So this is the isothermal temperature. So this is isothermal measurement. For example, For example, any change in the property. Okay. Now, similarly, the third one is the combination of heating. We can cool the temperature. We can again isothermal stages. So these are combination of first two, combination of heating, cooling, and isothermal. So these are again, this is another mechanism we can, that is the control temperature program. Now, moreover, nowadays other more modern approaches are there in which the temperature profile is modified according. We say that the temperature is changing. So, according to the, for example, we say that if, for example, calcium rate is there, and when we heat it, it will be converting into calcium oxide. But this change in the oxidation state, that is when it is around 800. Now, if I program my instrument that after 800-degree temperature, now the rate 5 degree per minute, but it should be 50 degree per minute. So that is our requirement. So depending on the requirement, this is the computerized program actually. So this computerization is what that is being utilized in this thermal analysis techniques. And this is what? This is when we say that this is the time, this is the temperature, this is the time. These are what? This is generally heating rate is 1 to 50 degree per minute. Okay. Now this is the program. This constant heating rate is there. As the time increases, we see that this is a linear program. That is the as the time increases, temperature increases. Temperature 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So at 10 minutes, it will be the 50 degree. This is another one, that is the isothermal. That first increase the temperature at 50 degree and then maintain it for 30 minutes. So that is the isothermal temperature, isothermal heating. The first initial, then at a given temperature, at the required temperature, it will remain as such. There will be no heating, but it will be it. Just like in your refrigerator, just like in your thermal, it is thermostated. That is isothermal state is there. That is in your AC, in your refrigeration system. The temperature is maintained. That the thermocouple will be switched off. The heating will be switched off. When it is cooling again, it is isothermal. This is isothermal heating. And then there is an isothermal and increase, and then isothermal, and then this is the combination of the first two. It is increasing, and then abruptly it is increasing by 5 degree, and then it is maintaining for 30 minutes, then increase for another 5 minutes, 5 degree, and a gradually it is isothermal. It is increasing as well as isothermal. So this is the combination of these two, for example. So there are so many other, depending upon, it is not this is a stepwise, it's simple one, but it could be more complicated as per the requirement of the sample. Now, that we can only analyze the weight change, we can only measure the weight change with the help of thermal analysis. There are so many others. That is the thermal analysis, we can say it is just a general term. That is the measurement of what any physical or chemical property of the sample as a function of temperature. This is the general definition of thermal analysis. Now, there are other branches of this thermal analysis. The first one is, for example, the thermogravimetric analysis. And this is a technique. This is a technique in which Mass of a substance is measured as a function of temperature. That is, just like in previous case, the mass is as the temperature increases, we are measuring the weight, and then we say that it is the change in the mass with the change in the temperature. And the substance is subjected to control heating program. With the change in the temperature, some weight changes, weight losses, weight absorption, weight increase that is taking place. It could be maintained, it could be decreasing, it could be increasing. So this is the technique in which the weight loss, weight change is measured as a function of temperature. Okay. Now there is another one, that is differential thermal analysis. This is known as DTA. This is what? This is a change in the temperature. We are changing. We are changing the temperature. The difference in the temperature between the sample and that of the reference material is measured. Now here, in this technique, we are heating the sample along with the standard. So if something is there, because both the substance as well as the standard in a similar way, in a similar fashion, in a similar environment, what is happening? That is that this sample, the sample, sorry, reference is known to us. Its behavior is known to us, but the unknown sample, which is a sample, its behavior, it should be. And due to different nature of the substance, there will be change in the temperature as well as of the reference material. And we are measuring this change in the temperature. If the sample is, for example, is heat being, if we are supplying energy and the reference temperature is 50 degree, whereas the sample temperature is 60, it means that there is something is happening in which the heat is being generated within the sample. When the temperature of the sample is greater, it means that something additional is there. It means that something happening within the sample which could be exothermic process. And due to this exothermic, heat is being generated in the sample form, in the sample, but not in the reference material. So this is change in the temperature between the sample and reference material is monitored, and this is known as differential thermal analysis. This is abbreviated as DTA, differential thermal analysis. The next one, that is differential scanning calorimeter. Exactly the same, just as DTA. In that one, that is different. That is because there is a difference between the sample and the reference material. So, in the differential calorimeter, if, for example, the sample is heated, it means that we have to supply additional energy in order to maintain the temperature of the sample and of the reference material. So, we will heat the sample additional energy to the reference material so that equal to that of the sample temperature. So that is what? That is calorimeter. That is calorie. How much calorie we are making the supply of the energy we have to supply the sample or that of the reference. So the difference in the heat flow that to the sample and to the reference material is monitored. So this is known as DSC. Similarly, there is a thermometric titrations. You might have discussed all this material and this type of titration in your previous semester. And here, what we are using, that we are mixing a reactant from the titration in the titration flask, and we are mixing another one that is burette, and then we are titrating it, and there is a change in temperature because just for giving an example, for example, when you are making acid-base titration, It is a exothermic reaction always. So during this titration, some temperature of the conical flask will be changing. If we are able to monitor it, we can check we can have a titration back to the temperature. When there will be after neutralization, there will be no change. There will be no change in the temperature. So that is known as thermometric titrations. TT. Another one, thermomechanical analysis. So some mechanical changes are also there. For example, we know that with the help of when we are heating a substance, thermal expansion is there, and each substance, each element, they have its own characteristic thermal expansion coefficient, and due to this thermal coefficient, it will be two different matter. They will expanding at a different rate with as we increase the temperature in a regular way. So this is thermomechanical analysis. Thermal expansion coefficient is being measured with the help of this technique. Then there is another one, the temperature program desorption. So if for example if we change in the temperature, the adsorbed gases they are on the surface they are being dissolved. So that is the temperature program desorption. If for example is catalysis, especially this is being used in catalysis. So if a catalyst is there on which some gases are being adsorbed, they can be dissolved with the temperature program desorption technique. So that as we increase the temperature, desorption taking place, we are making the gas, we can measure the quantity of the gas which is being dissolved from the surface of a catalyst. And there is another one, for example, the emission gas thermoanalysis. So if we are heating the sample and some gases are being evolved, and these gases are being evolved, these gases are being analyzed. So this we couple it with the help of GC, gas chromatograph. So the gas analysis could be done, and that is again temperature dependent. So these are only a few. There are some other ones, but these are only listed in order to give you an idea that the thermal analysis is not only the thermogravimetric analysis. Some other physical, for example, expansion is a physical process. Mixing of titration is a chemical process. So it is a physical process. Evolved gases are this is a chemical analysis, chemical process. So there could be a chemical change, there could be a physical change with the as we increase as a function of what as the function of temperature. So this is being monitored and this is being used in the thermal analysis. Now, coming to the instrumentation, the apparatus required for the thermogravimetric analysis include only 3-4 components. If number one, heating device. Heating device means what? That is a furnace. It is not a burner. It is not a burner. It is a furnace. The difference between burner is at low temperature, burning at, but furnace temperature is elevated, 1,000 temperature, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, ranging from ambient temperature to generally it is 1,000. Okay, but in a control program, in a control fashion, as a computerized program is there. And number two, sample container in which the sample is being placed and it is heated, and then a sensor for temperature measurement. The temperature, how we can measure the temperature? Yes, we can measure the temperature with the help of a thermometer. But ordinary thermometer, which we are using nowadays for the medical, It ranges up to maximum up to 40, 41 degrees Celsius. But here the temperature is the thousand, for example. So we have a special temperature sensor. Okay, for that, so that it is sample is there, and what it is, we must have a sensitive analytical balance, which could be operated, which could be measuring very minute in mass, mass of a substance as a function of temperature. And then the detector, how it is being detected, whether or mass, and a computer for the data collection, for the display device, and then a recorder, and a plot of a sample mass as a function of temperature. These are the basic requirements. And now the auxiliary equipment. Auxiliary equipment means additional component. This is cosmetics. This is cosmetics of the instrument. Auxiliary equipment means, for example, it can provide, if we are heat, as such, it means that heating the sample in an air atmosphere. But in an air atmosphere, there could be some side reaction. Oxidation could be taking place. So in order to avoid that, what we are doing, we have to provide inert atmosphere to the sample. So it means that we have to supply an additional requirement is that is supply of nitrogen is there, supply of argon is there, supply of dioxide should be there. So this is the auxiliary equipment. So these are the basic components of the thermal assay. This is diagrammatic, we can show. Now, this is a furnace assembly program. Here it is a sample container. This is the sample container, crucible. This is the sample. So this is sample container. These red bars, they are heaters, furnace lining. So this is the furnace. And this is whole, this furnace, as well as this sample container, it is present. It is present in a furnace assembly. And now, there is a balance which can measure minute changes in the weight as we heat it. And the requirement is that the balance should be outside of this furnace, so that the heat of this furnace, it should not disturb the mechanism of this balance. Again, this is the heating program, red bars. So this is in a programmed way. This is the programmer, and then this program will give us how much the temperature inside of this sample of this furnace assembly is. That is measured with the help of this thermometer, thermal temperature sensor. So this is the okay. Now this is what, this is the weight, sample weight is there. Now it is connected with what, that recorder, and this is the balance. So even minute changes within the weight is being recorded here. So this is the only simple programming. This is the only simple schematic block diagram of TG, thermogravimetric. Okay. Coming to the component one by one. Now, the characteristic of a furnace. Furnace should be furnace should not be non should be non-inductively wounded. A wire coil coated with a ceramic material and is surrounded by an insulator and is accommodated within the furnace housing. Within the furnace, whatever the inductive coil is that is being arranged, that is being coated with the ceramic material. Ceramic materials are non-conductor, and this non-conducting material, it is being coated with the coil, so that the coil should not in contact with the body of the furnace, so that no current should be disturbing the mechanism. So the it is safety of the human body, for example. It is safety of the instrument, so that no short circuit should be there. Now another one is it should be capable of reaching the temperature 100 to 200 degree above the maximum desired working temperature. If, for example, for a given system, the required temperature, so it should have the furnace should have the ability to reach the temperature to heat the environment up to not only on to 800 but to 900 or 1000 degrees Celsius. Number three, it should be designed. It should be designed so that the sample is heated uniformly. So the uniform sample heating must be there. Okay. Because if this uniform temperature is not there, there may be temperature gradient there, so that can affect the net result. Number four, it should reach the required temperature as quickly as possible. If we want to have a 1000 degree temperature within 5 minutes, yes, it should be able to. That heating rate should be greater. Or if we want to heat within 1000 temperature in 20 hours, so it should be able to within 24 hours. So it should be read as quickly as possible. It should be as slowly as possible. Okay. The furnace should not affect the balance mechanism through what? Through radiation and convection. So these two are the mechanism for the effect due to the thermal gradient. So this could be done by what? Inclusion of the radiation shielding. So radiation shield should be used between between the balance and that of the heater. And again, use of the convection buffers. They are hanging down the tube. So in the hanging tube, within the tube, beside the tube, there should be the convection buffers. So these are by means of which we can avoid the interference of what of the inter radiation or the by convection of the furnace from that of the balance mechanism. So these are the basic requirement of the furnace which should be there. And what is furnace? In the furnace of the thermogravimetric apparatus is generally programmed to increase the temperature linearly at predetermined rate that I want to heat the temperature 5 degree per minute, but you want to have a heating rate of 50 degree per minute. So that is in a linear fashion, a gradual increasing. So it means that the rate of heating is 5 degree per minute and 50 degree per minute, 100 degree per minute, they have their own different programming. So that is the predetermined. which temperature. This is depending upon my program. How much I want to, how much in a minimum time I want to heat the temperature. It depends upon my sample programming, my VL, what I want from this experiment. Now, the sample may be heated by resistive heater or by IR or microwave radiation. IR means microwave. So either we are using the microwave heating or by the resistive heater. Resistance heater is that is you may have seen. That is the electric heater in which for we are using for domestic purpose. That there is a wire that is wounded on what? On the ceramic, and the two terminals being positive, negative. And that is when the current is flowing, that due to the resistance of the wire is glowing. When it is glowing, it is heating and it is giving us radiation. That is the electric. We say that this is the resistance heater. The other way, the microwave radiation are being bombarded on the sample, and that is utilized for the heating system. Two types of the heating system. When we say that the resistance heater, it means that the wire is there, and that wire is known as nichrome wire. Nichrome is an alloy, okay? And alloy, and this wire is being used for when the furnace temperature is up to 1000 degrees centigrade. If we want to heat the wire at elevated temperature, elevated than that of the above that of the 1000 purpose, platinum or platinum rhodium alloy wire made of platinum and platinum rhodium alloy that is used, and this could be used for up to 1500 degrees centigrade. I know it is going to be after 2 minutes. And now this is one that is a resistance heater. Now the other one is the IR heating system. The light several lamps to focus onto the sample by means of elliptic or parabolic reflector. Now this is the parabolic. This is the parabolic. So the coming here and they are reflected here in the right in the center. So here the sample is present. So this is the parabolic or elliptic. So by means of radiation, IR radiation, at a fixed point, we are compelling the sample to be heated. When it is heated, the heating is to have now this is connected. So this is the sample. So this radiation are being connected, focused on the sample. And I think there is only 1 minute. If there is any question within 1 minute, I think there will be no. If they're coming back,